In this training video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create an estimate. Now, there are two types of estimate in Garage Hive. There is a standard estimate and there is a vehicle inspection estimate. To explain the difference between the two, the standard estimate is what you would be expected to use if a customer was to call up the business and ask for a price on, let's say, a timing belt kit, for example. The vehicle inspection estimate is expected to be used when the vehicle is already on site and the technicians have performed a vehicle inspection. In this example, we're just going to do a normal estimate, and it's one that a customer has asked for a price on, let's say, front brake pads. So to do this, from the Actions menu on the Service Advisor Role Center, select Plus Estimate, and this is going to create a blank estimate for you. From here, type in a registration, and it's going to pull the customer details through as well if there's a customer linked. If there isn't, if it's a new customer, then you create a customer in exactly the same way that you did when you first made a job sheet booking. So from this stage, we have a couple of options. We can either directly price the labels and items up on the lines of the document, or we can just add a comment and come back to the estimate. In this case, we're just going to add a comment, and we'll say customer requires price on front brake pads. Oh wow, that's great spelling. Requires price on front brake pads. Okay, so what we can do now is just close the estimate down. And what you'll see actually is now, because we didn't complete the estimate, we now have a new red tile. And if you remember back a few videos, I mentioned that red tiles are always calls to action. It always means that you have something to do. So if you were to leave your desk and come back, you can still see that this estimate is awaiting action. So we open the tile back up. We can see that we have this estimate in awaiting action. If I open the estimate, we can see that it's a customer requires price of front brake pads. So again, if you remember back to building up a job sheet, we have a couple of methods to do this. We can either add the labels and items here. So I say LAB, and I change it to replace front brake pads and say it's 1.5. Keep tabbing along, and then we're going to add an item. So if I press I, it will change the type to an item. I don't know what the part number is, so I'm going to use MISC, which is absolutely fine. And we'll change this to brake pads. We've spoke to the supplier. We have a price from the supplier for £15, and we're going to sell them out at 25. So what I have down here now is I have the total of the estimate, which is £120. The other method I could have used was I could have gone through lookup and used repair times and used Autodata. If you want to remember how to do that, if you reference back to the job sheet creation video, then you'll see how to use the repair times. So from here, I've actually built this up, but now I can't get hold of the customer. So I'm going to change the status to awaiting authorization. If I want to, I could text to the customer. So to open up the text screen next to the mobile phone number, I could click these three dots and send an SMS and actually text the customer the prices. But in this case, I actually want to talk to the customer. So I'm going to change it to awaiting authorization. Close the estimate down, go back to the home page, and you can see that we now have a new red tile. It's moved from awaiting action to awaiting authorization because the estimate is already built up. We're just waiting for the customer to contact us back. Now the customers contacted us and they've authorized the job. So if I open the estimate, go through the details with the customer, and now I actually want to copy these authorized lines over to a job sheet, to a booking. So I have two methods here. If the entire estimate has been authorized, I can go process, make job sheet, or if only part of the estimate's been authorized and I want to copy it to an existing job, then I can, on the lines here, look, I can select customer authorized. And then under process, I select copy authorized lines to job sheet. Now, if a job sheet already exists in the system, it's going to copy just the authorized lines to the existing job sheet. Or if you only want to partially authorize the estimate, then it's going to give you the option here to create a new job sheet. Let's say the customer didn't want it all doing. Well, you have the reminder date function here. So we could say, okay, well, we're going to remind the customer about the brake pads in a month's time. So I just set the reminder here if I want to. But in this actual demo, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a job sheet from the estimate. So we go process, make job sheet. Do you want to convert the estimate to a job sheet? Yes. So estimate 25 has been converted to job sheet 209, and that's that estimate closed. Now it's just a case of me adding the estimate onto the schedule. So I've got two methods of doing this. I can open the job sheet, so I can see job sheet 209. I can see the information here, but you can see it has no booking date or time. This is because it hasn't yet been allocated to the schedule. So to do this, from within the job sheet, I select schedule, and I go to make an allocation. Now again, it may be that we know which technician is going to do this estimate, or it could be that this is being done at a later date. So in this demo, we're going to book this in for tomorrow. So I'm going to go to next period, and on the general bookings, I'm going to make an allocation. And instead of making a new job, I'm going to select existing job sheet because the job sheet already exists within the system. So I press OK. And because I opened the schedule from within the job sheet, it's automatically selected the correct job sheet. If not, you could search for the job sheet at this point, and I simply press OK. So this is the allocation of the job sheet that was converted from the estimate. So if we open this job sheet up, we can see that it has the front brake pads and the brake pads on with the prices, and it's got all the customer details ready. So that is how to create an estimate, authorize an estimate, and convert an estimate to a job sheet in Garage Hive.